Problem number one, I never found information how many vulnerabilities are in the system. If you start at Oracle, first you have to find the documentation on the Oracle web page. So a few months ago they redesigned their web page, and I'm no longer able to find the web page where they announce the vulnerabilities. The second fact, even if you are able to find this information is distributed in 20 different documents. Because Oracle is only, like all the vendors, they create vulnerabilities per patch set. So you have to go through all the different patch sets, and then you have to find out in this patch set what bug is affected and so on. And I did this for all the databases, and it took me something like 1 or 2 days per database. And at the end, these are the numbers. So for Oracle 11.2, we have 8 vulnerabilities. SQL Server and Sybase, the latest version, 0 vulnerabilities. DB2, Linux, Unix, Windows, there are 14 vulnerabilities. MySQL 5.1, 38, and PostgreSQL has 7 vulnerabilities. If we look just on these numbers, the answer of the question, what's the most secure database, is normally easy. So Sybase or MS SQL, because there are no vulnerabilities known. The fact is, this null means only there are no public vulnerabilities published. The good thing is also, from this point, there are no exploits available. So I was looking for Sybase exploits quite a long time. I found 3 or 4 Sybase exploits. For Oracle, there are 100 of exploits. Then there are no password crackers available for Sybase. So this changed 1 month ago, and tomorrow is a presentation from Marcel, and he will talk about this, how to find this. And there are no hacker tutorials. So for a lot of the databases, you find information how to use them, but no information how to hack them. The question is Sybase really secure, and SQL Server? So just from these facts, it's clear. No information available, so information hiding. Security through obscurity, it looks good. If you look at the reality, the market for exploits, especially for SQL Server, is moving to the underground. So there are bug lists where you can buy bugs for SQL Server. If you look at the Sybase installation, so you download Sybase, even in 2010, they're installing the Sybase administrator account with an empty password. And there's no possibility in the installer to change this. And I think in 2010, a commercial database software should never allow to use empty passwords, and it should not be the default setting. And another fact, Oracle is in the focus, so everyone is concentrating on Oracle. So what I did, the first thing, and it's also surprising, the majority of database administrators, they have no idea, is my database supported? Is my database, how long will it be supported? And what versions are available? So what I did, and you can get this information also, later I will explain how to do this. I collected all this information, what version was released when and where. Because sometimes if you do a pen test and you find the Oracle 9206 database, then it's interesting to know when was this piece of software released, because then you know, okay, it's 6 years old, no security patches, all pardon? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it's interesting to know the release date of a version number, so you can estimate how many vulnerabilities are available. And especially for Oracle, it was difficult to find. For SQL Server, it was much easier. And this requires also a lot of updates. So especially MySQL, they are releasing updates every 1 or 2 months. Okay. And then I counted the vulnerabilities. So at the moment, there are only 4 versions of Oracle supported in normal and extended support, and this is Oracle 10.1, 10.2, 11.1, 11.2. from my experience, the majority of the customers are still using Oracle 10.2. But this and next year, a lot of customers are starting the migration because Oracle wants to have more money. If you are using an outdated version in the extended support, you have to pay 30% more support. That's why people starting doing migrations. And here we have really a remarkable number of 300 security bugs which are published, and there are 25 exploits available, public exploits for 10.1. And I did a number bugs per month because it's not fair to compare a 10.1, which is available 6.5 years, with Oracle 11.2, which is out now for 1 year. But you can see a trend. So even the newer versions are getting more stable. And this is a generic trend that the database vendors are working to improve the security. But it's clear that Oracle 10.1 was released 6.5 years ago, and at that time, security was not important, or not that important for databases. But Oracle changed, but it's like a big ship. It takes a long time until you can change the direction. And for me, security is also related to the availability of exploits, because in reality, the majority of security people and hackers are not able to write exploits. So most of the people are just doing copy-paste from Google, Milworm, etc. And if it's working, it's good. If it's not working, they are looking for the next goal. But the majority of the people, they are not writing their own exploits. And a platform with many exploits, it's much easier to hack. So if you search, for example, for Oracle 11.2, you will find the exploit, and you don't have to have knowledge. You just do copy-paste, Control-A, Control-C, Control-V, and then you are DBA without understanding what's going on. And in other platforms, these exploits are not available. I'm quite sure if people would spend the same time searching vulnerabilities in Sybase, they would also find critical vulnerabilities, but nobody does it. And one of the interesting things, the majority of the database vendors, they are now going to standard algorithm. So Oracle had also their own hashing algorithm based on DES. But they always, everyone was criticizing Oracle that they're using DES. And now Oracle said, we learned our lesson in Oracle 11.1. Oracle is using SHA-1. The big disadvantage, SHA-1 algorithms are much more optimized. So you can now crack passwords 200 times faster with the new, more secure algorithm than with the old one. But Oracle always try to be backward compatible. That's why Oracle is generating the old and the new password hash together. So it doesn't matter what version you have. If you have the new version, you can still use the old passwords. And Sybase did something similar. They had also their proprietary hashing algorithm, and they changed this as well. And for Oracle passwords, there are tons of different tools available, and they are quite fast and reliable. And from my experience, this is still the biggest problem in all the databases, passwords. So from my experience, I would say 30% of all passwords in an Oracle database are weak. And weak means username equal passwords or something from a dictionary file. And that's the reality. And most of the customers, they have to spend months before they can change all the passwords. And one of the things, if you work with Oracle and security, Oracle, for example, does not release patched database versions. So if you download a database from Microsoft, you always get the latest version with all the security patches which are available. Oracle has a different strategy. They say if you want to have security patches and normal patches, you have to buy Oracle and you have to pay for our support. So without a support contract, you're getting the really old databases, the really old vulnerable database versions. Oracle has also a free version called Oracle Express, and Oracle Express is 5 years old, and there are no security patches available. So you can more or less instantly hack Oracle Express Edition if you start this version. And this month, Oracle also changed their strategy. They are no longer providing patch sets. So in the past, they always provided a patch set which is only changing the vulnerable libraries and so on. And now, starting with Oracle 11.2, they are no longer releasing patch sets. They always release the full version. So you cannot just replace a few files. You really have to download 5 gigabyte just to get rid of security patches and vulnerabilities. And so you need a good internet connection. Another important thing, Oracle is fixing tons of bugs. So these patch sets from Oracle are normally released every 1 to 2 years. And in general, they fix around 3,000 vulnerabilities. And I can just show you how this looks like. So you can see here, this is the latest patch set, 10.2.05. This is fixing 3,500 normal bugs. And here are the descriptions, for example, excessive CPU usage and so on. And one of the interesting bugs is wrong results. So Oracle has more than 200 bug fixes in this patch set, which is correcting wrong result errors. So let's say you do a select statement and Oracle does not return all the rows. So 1 or 2 rows are missing, or all the rows. And for me, it's remarkable that a piece of software which is 30 years old has so many software bugs. And then they have also, normally you can see here, it's a bug number, a description, and quite often these bugs can be used to destroy the database. So for example, selecting from the wrong table and the database dies. This is not a security bug for most of the vendors, also not for Oracle. Denial of service, for the majority of the software vendors, denial of service is not a security vulnerability. That's why you find it here in this documentation. And where is it? To protect the innocent, you see these tons of numbers. You have undocumented bugs. So these are all the undocumented bugs fixed in this patch set. So you can imagine they're, and sometimes only for the component. And the security patches, in the meantime, are released on a quarterly basis. But from my experience, the majority of the customers do not have the time to apply the security patches because it's way too complicated and it takes too much time and resources to apply them. That's why most of the customers are happy if they are able to install it every 2 or 3 years, a new version. And the big security problem from Oracle, we have tons of feature. There are a lot of documented and undocumented ways of file system access. So you can read and write the file system. There are tons of ways to run operating system commands. I'm not sure if some people still have a Commodore C64 background. Oracle has even a peek and poke command. So there's a command where you can directly modify a memory cell with a simple command. So you can say peek or poke, and then you can read or write your own value into the memory of the database. And this is bypassing all the security stuff. This is undocumented, so you will never find this in official documentation. And this is also one of the problems. There are tons of undocumented things in Oracle. And all other vendors, they are much better comparing this. And this is a quick look at the evolution of the Oracle executable. So in Oracle 8.05, the entire Oracle executable was only 16,000 C functions and 600 global variables. And then Oracle 9.1, we had already 31,000 C functions and 6,000 global variables. And then 10.2, 70,000 C functions, and you can see the jump from 10.2 to 11.1. It's to 113,000 C functions. And if you develop software, you can imagine how difficult it is to manage and to maintain such a piece of software. Especially we have also 17,000 global variables, which makes everything much more complicated. Another view, if you look at the complexity, is the number of procedures in the database. So in Oracle 11G, release 2, we have 27,000 functions and procedures in the database. So if you click install next, at the end you have 27,000 C functions and 23,000 Java classes. If you look at SQL Server, they have something like 1,600 functions or procedures. So you can see Oracle is really good if you are developing software, but from the complexity and also from the difficulties to harden the system, this is really a nightmare. But Oracle is a market leader. That's why other database vendors try to incorporate Oracle features in their database. So in the latest version of IBM DB2, they can also run PLSQL. And that's why they are also introducing some of the problems from Oracle with dynamic SQL, SQL injection in the Sybase platform. Or the same is also true for Postgres. And just, this is a short collection, this is not complete, how to access files in Oracle. And other database systems, they normally have one way to access files, probably two, but not 10, 20 or 30 different ways. So there are some, so we have packages, we have code, we can use external tables, we can use Java. A lot of the components allow to read and write files on the database. And the same is true for running operating system commands. So these are all the ways I know how to run operating system commands from within the database. And here are some of the statements. For example, you can do it with a simple select statement. You just say dbms java run java, then you use a Java class, and then as a parameter, the statement you want to execute. This Java class is granted to public, but depending from your privileges, a normal user does not have the privilege to run this Java class. But as soon as you have DBA privileges, you can directly access the operating system. If you revoke this dbms Java from public, you will have side effects, because then some of your code is no longer working, or some Oracle code is no longer working. So I did this on a customer side. I removed this from public, and after that, some administrative tools were no longer working, and we had problems with backup and recovery. That's why the majority of the DBAs are quite conservative. They say, I never change anything, because then I'm sure everything is working. But if you have 20,000 functions and procedures, this can be dangerous. And it's much easier to handle 100 or 1,000 functions and procedures. Or Oracle always tries to introduce new features. In Oracle 11G, you can now execute operating system commands using a create table statement. So you can say create table, and here's a parameter preprocessor. And whenever you select the preprocessor, whenever you access the table, Oracle is executing this command. So everyone with create table privileges, if he has a right to access this directory, can run any statement in this directory. And for Oracle, this is a feature, and if you are working with data loading, this is really convenient. If you are not using data loading, the disadvantage, you cannot just switch it off, because a create table statement is quite common and often needed. And this is one of the latest exploits, which works in all Oracle databases if the security patches are missing. So here, this was from David Litchfield. You grant yourself execute privileges on all files via Java. And the problem was this is an undocumented package and there's no description for it. And David found out that this package could be used to grant yourself your own privileges because this package was granted to public. And if this is done, you can just do a privilege escalation, which are the next two statements. And this kind of information can be found on the internet. So you mark everything, copy to SQL+, and then you are DBA. And this kind of exploits, these exploits are not available for other databases because they are not so interesting in this area and there are not so many security issues. If you look at SQL Server, the SQL Server team, they really did a good job. So you can find there are no vulnerabilities reported in SQL Server 2008, and even a lot of people looked at it. The good thing, Microsoft provides you a lot of information. So this was the easiest together with PostgreSQL and MySQL. Here it was really easy to find information if you are able to navigate on their website. And the good thing is they are also providing security patches. So even if you are using trial versions or free versions, you always get security patches and normal patches. The security patches for Microsoft databases are released on a monthly basis if patches are available, but so far this was not needed. And you can see 0 bugs, you can't do it better. They're also using SHA-1, so you can crack them with the similar speed, 900 million passwords per second, similar to Oracle. With MySQL, after it was acquired by Oracle, they normally release a lot of security information because they have also this open source background. So in the MySQL knowledge base, you can find a lot of information. The problem is, because I'm not sure if it's the open source background, a lot of security problems are not classified as a security problem. And if it's not classified as a security problem, you can find the vulnerable code in the knowledge base of MySQL. I can just show you an example. So here I did a collection for all the exploits I found on the internet. And for example, with this statement, depending from the version, you can crash a MySQL database. This is not a security vulnerability for MySQL. And you have tons of these issues in the database. For example, if you use union statements, and because it's not a security vulnerability, everyone can just search on the MySQL knowledge base. So you go to the MySQL knowledge base, you say crash database, and then you get a list of unfixed, sometimes unfixed vulnerabilities. But in general, MySQL is, it's easy to get a new version. It's also easy to patch. And you can also get older versions. That's also a common problem with most of the commercial vendors. You never get old software. And because it's commercial, there are no mirrors for it. And for me, it was sometimes hard to find older versions of DB2 and so on. And you can see, even if MySQL is the database with the lowest complexity, you have a lot of vulnerabilities. And also, if you look at the vulnerabilities itself, it's sometimes really simple. So you have a parameter is longer than 2,000 bytes, and then the system crashes. And I think in 2010, you shouldn't have software which can be crashed so easily. They're also using SHA-1. For example, this is one of the exploits. If you run this select statement twice, explain select, you are crashing the database. And so you can easily find this. DB2, it's somehow strange. So I was never be a big fan of DB2 because they always try to do it completely different. So you don't have passwords in the database, which is good because passwords in the database is the biggest problem. But one of the things, there's often a confusion about DB2. Everyone says DB2, but there are 4 or 5 completely different versions of DB2. So we have DB2 LUV, Linux, Unix, Windows. We have DB2 mainframe. We have DB2 WMS, and we VMS, and we have DB2 AS400. And for the majority of things, you always find it for LUV. But the critical information in the majority of companies, in organizations, the data is stored on a mainframe, so DB2 ZOS. But nobody has a mainframe. The people I know do not have a mainframe at home, so you cannot play around. And if I ask customers, can I run a fuzzer on your productive mainframe, nobody's interested to do this. That's why I did not found, I found only one security vulnerability for mainframe, but I expect there are much more available. Also here, if you ever search something on an IBM website, this is really ugly. So to find stuff on an IBM web page is really complicated. And you can download the latest version, but if you want to have patches, this is really complicated. You also have to register and so on. And DB2 is quite lazy, because even if someone is publishing zero-day exploits, this happened in January this year, until now, until September, they haven't released a patch for this. So a guy from Russia released this exploit. So select repeat 1,1000, and with this you can crash the database. And there's no patch available for 9.7. And I think this is really poor vendor feedback in 2010. But you can also see the quality of DB2 is getting better, so the obvious bugs, they are gone. Sybase is probably the most strange database. Has anyone experience with Sybase here? Okay. I really hate Sybase, so just from the usage. So I'm coming from the database, so I think the right way to access a database is a select statement. The problem, Sybase has a different philosophy. In Sybase, you always have to use functions. exec, sp this, sp that, and so on. And this makes it really difficult to write smart queries. And most of the exceptions in our tool were done for Sybase. And it's somehow strange. So to find out if a parameter is set, you have to read the first or the 5th parameter of an execute function. So you cannot limit this. It's really weird if you want to get information out of it. And also the documentation in the internet. So if you look for Sybase and security, it's nearly non-existent. So you find a few recommendations, but that's it. Sybase doesn't have a patch day. And I think the last official security advisory was released 5 years ago. And when I looked at when I analyzed the bug list, I saw that they are hiding the security bugs in their normal bugs. Here you can see in 15.5 there are no vulnerabilities available. But they normally reclassify the vulnerabilities. So they say it's not a vulnerability, it's a bug. That's why we don't have to release a security patch set, and that's why we are looking good. I'm not sure how this will be changed because Sybase was acquired 2 or 3 months ago by SAP. So probably they will change this. And this Tuesday, SAP also introduced SAP Patch Day. From the password algorithm, tomorrow you will hear more from Marcel about the Sybase, the new password algorithm and how to reverse engineer this. And the previous version, in older versions of Sybase, they used a Japanese one called Feel. But I never found detailed information. I have an internal password cracker, but officially there's no password cracker available. But in reality, a large amount of customers are still using the empty password, so it's often not necessary. Sybase and SQL Server have a lot of similarities. So you have also XP command shell, so this ugly stuff in SQL Server is coming from Sybase. But this Microsoft tries to move more to the direction of Oracle. So accessing everything via select statement instead of running stored procedures. But from the features, Sybase is much more powerful than SQL Server. So I was really surprised. You have Java, you have in-memory databases and so on. So the possibilities are really similar to Oracle. But accessing it, if you are coming from the Oracle world, is really a nightmare. And here, that's something for Sybase, this is not a security vulnerability. You can crash a Sybase database if you create a table with a reserved name. So if you call your column Sybase identity column, and then you select from it, the server dies. But keep in mind that's not a security vulnerability. And I found it by checking the bug list. PostgreSQL, the only real open source database which is really free, they did more or less a good job because it's free. You can get the source code, you can download all the versions. Every 2 or 3 months they are releasing new versions. Only the installation is a little bit ugly because you always have to install everything from the beginning and then copying data files. You can also see here there are nearly no public exploits available, in opposite to MySQL and Oracle. And also the number of security bugs is decreasing. But I still think what I saw from Sybase, there are also tons of security vulnerabilities available here, especially with this concept that you can use your own programming language into Sybase. Okay. And this is, for example, a PostgreSQL exploit. Just run the select statement and your database is gone. So as a summary, if you are interested to get this information, because I spent a lot of time, you can download our trial version. So just for getting this information, this is sufficient. And in this trial version, we collected all this information. For example, let's say Oracle. Then you have a tab concerning all the exploits. So I tested every single exploit, so they are working also on this version, and also grouped by the different attack groups. So for example, if you want to bypass Oracle auditing, you can use this, and here is the code. Or you can say, I'm sitting in front of Oracle 10.203, and these are all the vulnerabilities in this version. If you are looking at MySQL, for example, you have also a complete collection of the exploits. So if you download the trial version, even after, if the trial version expires, there's everything, it's HTML, so you will get an updated list of, or you will have a list of all these exploits, how to do a denial of service, privilege escalation, authentication problems, and so on. And even if it looks just like a little bit information, I spent 3 or 4 weeks collecting all this information, putting all these links together, and probably it can help you to reduce your time, because life is too short to spend it with searching on the internet. So database Software is getting more and more secure. Everyone wants to add features. Everyone wants to add features from the competitors. Even languages like PLSQL are available in PostgreSQL and DB2. The big problem nowadays is less and less the database software itself. The problem starts if you are using weak passwords and if you are installing your own code in the database. So even if you have a database without vulnerabilities in the database itself, this doesn't help you if the web application is vulnerable and you can use SQL injection to attack it. More complex software contains more vulnerabilities. That's why I recommend everyone install only what is really needed. And that's normally not next. So you have really spent some time to find out what is the minimum components you need for your project. Database with a high market share, like Oracle or MySQL, they are a much more interesting target for attackers and also for researchers. So the probability that someone will hack your Sybase database is much lower because there's no experience available. But if someone is interested and they spend enough time and resources, they can also hack your Sybase database. The difficulty is to find the information, because I also learned exploits. So a lot of the exploits are not working, the version where the exploit is working is missing, so they say it's working on Oracle 10G, but this could be anything. But it's only working on a special version of a patch set. And that's it. If you want to use download our scanner with all this information to get some inspiration what is possible, you can go to the webpage from Centrigo and you can download a trial from there. Any questions? So I thank you. Enjoy the conference. Questions? Okay.